Okay, hi guys, I hope you're doing well. So, welcome to this financial management orientation session. Before I go on, let me just guide you about myself and about this orientation session. So, my name is Luqman Rafiq, and my background is I've been in teaching profession for more than 13 years now. I've been teaching various courses for the different qualifications, which includes the ICAP, which includes ICW, CIMA, ACCA, and different courses under these qualifications, including the financial management, performance management, financial reporting. These are the different courses that I have been teaching. Now, the whole objective and agenda of the session of today is to actually take you people through the financial management syllabus, give you a bit of a guidance about what financial management syllabus is all about, and how exactly am I going to be taking you people through with respect to this financial management course. So that is what the whole objective is going to be. Now let's just start off. Let's just start discussing about this. So basically, the first thing that I want you people to understand is that whenever we talk about the concept of financial management, whenever we talk about the concept of financial management, just try to understand it's simply what? It is simply the concept of ensuring that you manage the finances of a business. What is it? It's simply ensuring that you manage the finances of the business. Now, how exactly does this happen that you manage the finances of the business? So let's try to understand. For example, as a business, if you have got finance, so you have got multiple challenges to deal with. Now, what are those multiple challenges to deal with? Let's have a bit of a discussion about it. So if you as a business want to have a finance, is basically there are multiple sources, and those multiple things is that what are gonna be the sources of these finance? What is gonna be the cost that we will be paying in order to raise this finance? Um, what is going to be the mode of obtaining the finance, whether it is going to be the equity, whether it is actually going to be the debt, how exactly are we going to invest this money, would we pay out any dividends to our shareholders, how would we manage the working capital of the business, if we want to expand, so which expansion opportunities to undertake. Plus, in addition to this, if I actually tell you, there are going to be certain other things which would include what? Which would include, it would even be, let's say, at times, for example, if you are going to be acquiring a business, or for example, if you are going to be disposing of your business, so what is actually going to be the value that you would be paying to acquire a business? What exactly is the value that you would be getting in order to sell the business? So there are multiple type of things that actually need to be done. So when we talk about the topic, when we talk about the subject financial management, the whole objective of this financial management course is that under this financial management course, we learn how to manage finances. We learn how to ensure that a business's finances are being managed. That's what we actually try to do. Now let's start discussing about this financial management. I have actually in front of me, I've got the syllabus which I've downloaded from the ACCA's website, and it is one of the recent syllabus of the financial management course. I will take you people through this specific financial management syllabus so that you could have an idea. ACCA keeps on changing the syllabus periodically, and this syllabus is actually one of the recent syllabus that has been introduced. The changes, whatever they are going to be discussed later on. But before we go on, let's try to have a bit of an understanding about one thing, which is when we talk about the relational diagram. What exactly do we mean by the concept of relational diagram? So under the relational diagram, ACC actually guides you that if you are going to be studying this course of financial management, what are the subjects that you should have studied, and what are the subjects that this course is going to help you in the future. So as you know, there is a subject management accounting. A lot of students, they get exemptions out of it. The subject is also known as F2, or the subject is also known as FMA, etc., etc. So this management accounting subject what we do is that we study the basic management accounting. Obviously, the management accounting is also used for the subject of performance management, but the management accountancy concepts are also used in the financial management topic. So if you are going to be studying the financial management course, what is actually going to happen is that in addition to whatever the principles that you have studied at the management accounting, those principles would be topped up. That knowledge that you have actually gained at the management accounting level would be used and would be applied at the performance management level also. And obviously, once you get over with this course, the next step is going to be the advanced financial management. The advanced financial management is the next level course. It's the final level course that you would actually be studying. Now, let's just start off and let's just start discussing about it. Basically, the first thing that you need to understand is that the syllabus areas. So let me just guide you about the syllabus areas. If you could see, there are in front of you around 7 to 8 syllabus areas, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. These are 8 syllabus areas. And with respect to this syllabus area, which is employability and technology skills, so let me just guide you. I'm sure a lot of you people would have attempted one of the applied skills paper of ACCA, but it's still just for the sake of your guidance. Let me just guide you. Basically, this specific course, this specific area of the syllabus, which is employability and technical skills. What actually happens is that your ACCA examinations are computer-based examination. You have to use the Microsoft Word processing document. You have to use the spreadsheet document. So when you use the Word document, when you use the spreadsheet document, what actually happens is that spreadsheet document actually, I repeat, that spreadsheet document actually is the demonstration of the employability skills. The use of the Word for typing out, it's actually a demonstration of your employability skills. So just try to understand this specific concept, which is basically if you are able to attempt the CBE paper, if you are able to understand, if you are able to learn how the CBE paper is going to be conducted, so that means you have actually understood, that means you have actually understood the concept of the employability and the technology skills. So this specific area, how exactly are we going to be covering this? So what I do is that as we would move forward, when I would be practicing the examination questions, I practice the exam questions. I repeat, I practice the exam questions on this. I repeat, I practice the exam questions on these. So basically, CBE Word spreadsheet document and the examination questions that you would practice on the CBE practice platform automatically, that would keep you ready for the employability and the technology skills. Let's move a bit forward and let's discuss a bit further. The next is basically there are these different type of syllabus areas which are being mentioned in front of you. The first one of them is about the financial management function. What exactly is this financial management function? Which is, it is actually going to tell you that when we talk about the financial management, what exactly do you mean by this? I mean, like, what is the purpose of a finance department? What are the activities that a finance department engages into? What are generally the responsibilities? What are generally the roles that a finance department actually plays? So all of these things are actually going to be covered up when we would be discussing. I repeat, all of these things would be covered up when we would be discussing what? When we would be discussing, when we would be discussing this financial management function. It's a purely theoretical area. There is not much of the things that actually have to be done. It's more of a theoretical area that we would actually be covering. The next thing is about the financial management environment. Now, when I talk about the financial management environment, what exactly do you mean by this? So the concept of this financial management environment is that the financial management environment would mean what? The financial management environment would mean that The financial management environment would mean that you as an entity, what exactly is the overall environment. Now when we talk about the overall environment, so we would be talking about the markets, whether that be the capital markets, whether that be the equity markets, whether that be the bond markets. Plus what happens is that the monetary policy, the fiscal policies, the taxation, and etc etc etc, the multiple type of organizations that lend money and etc. So these are all things that are actually going to be covered up when we would be talking about this. The next thing is that so basically these two topic areas, which is about the financial management environment and which is about the financial management function, these two areas are going to cover up what? These two areas are actually going to cover up the theoretical aspects of the business. Now, next, when we talk about the other areas, there's this working capital management, investment appraisal, business finance, risk management, business valuations. What I'll do is that I'll discuss each one of these areas one by one so that I can actually give you a bit of a detailed guidance as to what exactly is this all about. Now, try to understand. The first thing that I'm actually going to talk about is about the I repeat, the first thing that I'm actually going to talk about is about the working capital management. Now, when we talk about the working capital management, there are things that you should understand, there are things that you need to know. And what are these working capital management going to be? Try to understand that. When we talk about working capital management, working capital actually refers to working capital actually refers to the money that is needed for day-to-day operations. The money that is needed for day-to-day operations, that is considered to be the working capital. So like for example, if you need money for the salaries, you need money for the wages, you need money for the day-to-day purchases, you need money for the purchase of goods, etc etc etc, all of this is considered to be the working capital needs of the business. Now as a business, you have got a lot of things to consider. What are those lot of things to consider? As a business, you have to decide what are going to be our inventory levels. You have to decide as a business that what is going to be the receivable period. As a business, that you have to decide that what is actually going to be the payable period, etc etc etc. These are multiple things that are going to happen. So I repeat, when we talk about these inventory levels, the receivable period, the payable period, etc etc, what is generally going to happen is that you as a business have to decide on multiple things, that how much inventory are we going to keep, how much receivable balances are we going to manage, what is going to be our payable period, how long are we going to take the credit from our suppliers, etc etc. There are multiple things that you would have to actually talk about. So basically, when we are going to be discussing this working capital management, we would be covering up all these things, which is that how a business would manage its working capital, what are the minimum working capital requirements, what are the minimum working capital needs, etc etc. We are going to be discussing about all these things. Next, we have got one more area, business area, one more syllabus area, and that is basically the investment appraisal. Now, when we talk about the concept of investment appraisal, the concept of investment appraisal is that whenever you do any capital expenditure, I repeat, whenever you do any capital expenditure, so by actually undertaking a capital expenditure, I repeat, when we talk about an investment appraisal, the concept of capital expenditure is that whenever you do a capital expenditure, the impact of that capital expenditure is that, I repeat, the impact of that capital expenditure is that you have to think whether it is going to give us any positives, or it is going to give us any positive, or it is going to give us any negative values. So I repeat, you as a business need to know that if I am undertaking a capital nature expenditure, is it going to give me positive results or is it going to give me negative results? Now, so what happens is that we apply different techniques. I repeat, what we do is that we apply different techniques. What is the purpose of applying those different techniques? We apply those different techniques in order to establish, I repeat, we apply those different techniques in order to establish that whether we should invest or whether we should not invest. Whether we should invest or whether we should not invest, that is something that we do. Now let's try to understand. So what happens is that you as a business actually decide whether you should invest or whether you should not. So different techniques would actually be discussed. Some of the techniques that are most commonly known as are the net present value, which we also call the NPV. There is this another technique which is called internal rate of return, which we also call the IRR, etc., etc. So there are different techniques that we would actually be considering, that we would actually be looking at. So basically, amongst the syllabus areas, one of the area is the working capital management. The other area is the investment appraisal. Now, the third area of the syllabus is about the business finance. Under the business finance areas, there are two things that you actually need to consider. What are those two things that you would actually have to consider? One of them is the source of finance. That what are the sources that you will use for the finance? I repeat that what are the sources that you will use for the financing of the business, right? So what are the sources that you are going to be using for the financing of the business? That's one thing. The next thing is that what is going to be the cost of capital? I repeat, the next thing is that what is going to be the cost of capital? So now, when we talk about the source of finance plus when we talk about the cost of capital, so you need to try and understand something. What is it that you need to try and understand? Basically, the thing is that we would be discussing that what could be the different sources of raising the money, whether we should raise the money through loans, whether we should raise the money through equity, so on and so forth. Similarly, cost of capital is how much is going to be the cost of running the business and things like that. Then if I move a bit forward, so the next area of the syllabus actually is that, the next area of the syllabus is about the risk management. For the risk management perspective, you need to understand something. Basically, as a company, you are facing different type of risk. But two risks that are actually part and parcel of the financial management syllabus. They include the currency risk, they include the interest rate risk. What is this currency risk? What is this interest rate risk? Let's try to understand. When we talk about the currency risk, the concept of currency risk is that whenever you enter into a foreign exchange transactions, whenever you enter into a foreign exchange transaction, like you have got a foreign exchange purchase, you have got a foreign exchange sale, that means you have got a receivable balance, that means you have got a payable balance, etc., etc., etc. So what happens is that the exchange rate fluctuations, what happens is that the exchange rate fluctuations would have an impact on the business. So basically what are we going to be discussing over here is that under this currency risk management, we would actually be discussing that how a foreign exchange transaction would actually be dealt with, right? How a foreign exchange transaction would actually be dealt with. Then the second thing is about the interest rate risk management. So under the interest rate risk management, what is it that we need to consider? So under the interest rate risk management is that if you are an entity who is actually going to borrow the money, or if you are an entity who is actually going to lend the money, you are a borrower or you are a lender. So basically what happens is that being a borrower or being a lender, what generally happens is that you are facing different type of risk. I repeat, being a borrower, being a lender, you are facing different type of risk. Now, what are the risks that are being faced as a borrower? What are the risks that are being faced as a lender? Let's try to understand this. So basically, as a borrower, you are facing this risk. So I repeat, as a borrower, the risk that you are facing is that the interest rates will go up. As a lender, you are facing a risk that the rates will go down. As a lender, you are facing a risk that the rates will go down. So the rates could go up, the rates could go down, both things could happen. So basically, when we talk about the interest rate risk management, this is something that you should understand. We would try to see that what could be the different ways of managing or basically controlling this risk of interest rate movement or basically the exchange rate movements. That is what we would actually be considering with respect to risk management. And last area of the syllabus is about the business valuation. Now, when we talk about the concept of business valuation, what do we mean by business valuation? Try to understand this. For example, you are acquiring a business. For example, you are acquiring a business. Now, should you value the share of the business at $2 or $3 or $2.5 or $5 or $4 or whatsoever that is? I mean, if you are acquiring a business, there's something that you need to establish, which is how exactly are we gonna value this business? How exactly are we gonna measure the value of the business? So when we talk about that, how exactly are we going to be valuing that business, how exactly is going to be measuring the value of the business, you need to have the different valuation methods. I mean, you would need to have different valuation methods. So basically, what are we going to be studying? We are going to be studying the different valuation methods, and those different valuation methods would include what? The different valuation methods would include the different valuation methods. They include the asset based valuation, the income based valuation, and the third one of them is about, I repeat, the asset based valuation, the income based valuation, and the third one of them is actually the cash flow based valuations, right? So these are the three things that you actually go about, which is income based, asset based, cash flow based. Now let's try to understand this thing, let's try to see this thing. So basically what you need to do is that you need to learn these techniques also. So when we are going to be going through the financial management syllabus, let me just guide you that this financial management syllabus, what are we actually going to get? We are actually going to have this specific situation where all of these syllabus areas are actually examined. And these syllabus areas, the ones that I have highlighted here, these are the syllabus areas, they are the core syllabus areas. I mean, they are the core syllabus areas. What? They are the core syllabus areas. You get my point? They are the core syllabus areas. And majority of the course is actually examined out of it, especially these two areas, these three areas, they are the key. They are the most important areas of the syllabus. Now, The next thing that actually is important is to understand the next specific area of the syllabus is actually to understand that how exactly are we going to be. The next important thing is that to understand that how exactly is the syllabus going to be examined. Now let's just talk about it, that how exactly is the syllabus going to be examined. Let's try to understand this thing. Now, as you know, that when we talk about the syllabus, so the paper is examined in such a manner that you have got three sections, which is section A, section B, or section C. Now, what exactly are these going to be section A, B, and C? Section A, you will have 15 OTQs. Section B, you would have 3 case studies, and each case study would have 5 OTQs. And section C, what is actually going to happen is that there are going to be 2 constructed response questions. And those constructed response questions are going to be, those constructed response going to be based on Excel, based on Word, that's what it is going to be. So the constructed response questions are based on Excel and Word. Now, examiner has been very clear with respect to section C constructed response question, and he says that it is going to be from working capital management, investment appraisal, and the business finance. So basically he has identified the 3 areas that you will get a section B question, section C question from one of these 3 areas. You will get a section C question from one of these 3 areas. The examiner has been very clear and they've identified it clearly. Now let's try to understand and let's try to go through further details. So if I tell you something which is that how are we going to cover up the financial management syllabus? So see, my approach of covering the syllabus is online blended approach. What is this online blended approach? The online blended approach is that as you enroll with us, you would get access to the recorded lectures. They are going to be through our website. You will get an access to the recorded lectures. What's going to happen next is that once you have access to the recorded lectures, the next thing that's going to happen is that there is going to be a weekly live class. The third thing is going to happen is that you will be getting a planner. You will be part of the WhatsApp group. There are going to be different assignments that would be given to you, and you would have the option to submit them to our TAs and you can actually get them reviewed. Plus, in addition to this, usually what happens is that the last month before exam, the last month before the exam, what we actually do is that we try to, the last month before the exam, what we do is that we try to actually conduct live revision classes. We try to conduct the live revision sessions. And our live revision sessions are actually structured in such a manner to make sure that you as a student are able to get the maximum advantage and benefit and a quick revision of the whole course. So this is a bit of an introduction about the financial management course. In case if any one of you is interested in getting any details or any information, you are most welcome to contact our team, and our WhatsApp number is +92 So this is our WhatsApp number. You could just follow us on this number. You could contact us on this number and you can get answers to whatever queries that you have. You can get answers to whatever queries that you have. Our team is there usually available a majority of the time to answer the queries. So, in case if any one of you would like to have any questions, anything, you're most welcome to ask. In case if any one of you would like to have any questions, you're most welcome to ask them. Or else I'm actually gonna conclude the session here. So if you have got any queries, anything to ask, you're most welcome to ask, or else I'm actually gonna conclude the session. Okay guys, so thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for being part of this orientation session. I look forward to seeing you in our live sessions and in the recorded lectures, and look forward to interacting with you people.